And this even extends to the seemingly arcane world of intellectual property. That 1972 law that opened up India's patents, which incensed the Western pharmaceutical companies and allowed Dr. Hamied to prosper, was changed in 2005. 10 years earlier, when India joined the World Trade Organization, Western countries set a condition upon entry that India had to change its patent laws so that they reflected those in the West. So now, as new drugs are rolled out in the U.S. and Europe, Indian generic companies will no longer be able to copy them legally.
When the Indian Patent Act was passed, I said it was the most important piece of legislation in the world.
Brooke Baker is a professor at Northeastern University Law School. He says that access to affordable medicine isn't a problem limited to people living in developing countries.
Consumers in the U.S. are being priced out of the ability to afford medicines. The typical medicine that people get through prescription, if it's on patent, if it's still under monopoly protections, people are paying, 3, 4, 5, 10 times higher prices for those patented medicines than they would be for generic equivalents. In the world of AIDS, where I do my work, the medicines that cost $10,000 in the U.S. now are being sold for $77 a year in India.
But others say the 2005 law benefits people not just in India, but around the world. Richard Kelgard is the Associate Vice President for International Intellectual Property at PhRMA, the pharmaceutical industry's trade group.
Do you support India's updated patent law?
We do. We think it's a positive for all of us. We think it will result, because it's an incentive system that they put in place there for new drug products, in new products being developed by Indians for Indians. And that's a win for all of us.
But so far, the new system has proved to be more favorable to foreigners than Indians. During the first year of the new law, more than 17,000 patent applications were filed in India. 80% came from abroad.
Well, I think the industry recognizes that intellectual property rights are its goose to lay golden eggs. It's the way that it maintains its right to charge high prices and recoup money for research and development and to pay its stockholders.
Many American companies see the new patent law as a gateway to a previously untapped market in India's emerging middle class.
Are any other countries allied with the United States on this issue and Big Pharma on this issue? Britain, France, Germany?
Many of the countries are, of course. The European countries in general are. Japan is. But also, if you talk to Indian officials, as I've done, Indian officials are believers that this system that they're putting in place is to their benefit. And it's to their benefit because they will increasingly develop an R&D based industry which will help them solve their problems. This isn't just a one side is a winner, the other side is a loser situation.
One of those Indian officials is Ranjit Shahani, the Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Novartis India, a subsidiary of the Swiss pharmaceutical giant. He says patents are the engine that drive development and ensure that newer, better drugs can be discovered in the coming years.
Today, you need an incentive for innovation, and patents is about innovation. It is about hope. It is about providing medicine for the diseases of the futures.
Shahani says there's a good reason for rigorous patent enforcement.
Research and development costs a lot of money. There is a high degree of failure on the way. And if you look at the record of the new drugs coming out, the number of new drugs coming out every year is reducing, which means there is increasingly need to invest more and more money to get better drugs for the future. So by not allowing this, we will be mortgaging the future for the current. We will not have medicines for our children's children, for the diseases of the future.
But Dr. Hamied disagrees.
Nobody's denying that innovation is essential. But he has not mentioned monopoly. You have an innovation, there are 100 people selling television sets today. So why can't 100 people sell Lipitor today or atorvastatin today? That's what I'm trying to say.
And Dr. Hamied argues India's 2005 law has turned back the clock at the expense of India's neediest.
We are now back to the pre-1972 regime. on
And that's what you
intellectual
see as a
property.
problem and a big problem.
I see that as a very major problem. Not so much that I'm against patents. We're against monopoly.
A monopoly could force the world's poor to pay market rates for medications. People like Vikram fear that could be a death sentence for him.
जी जब अगर बॉम्बे जब अपने हिंदुस्तान में ये मेडिसिन अगर अवेलेबल है मिल रही है यहाँ पे और इनकी कीमत इतनी कॉस्टली है कि जो आम आदमी अफोर्ड नहीं कर पा रहा है तो अगर बाहर से कोई अगर ब्रांडेड कंपनी आ रही है तो सवाल ही नहीं उठता वो तो फिर उससे 2 गुना 3 गुना ही होगा तो वो तो अपने हिंदुस्तानी के लिए तो अफोर्डेबल का तो सवाल ही नहीं उठता है वो
Vikram has already lost one child to AIDS and has just found out that his 13-year-old son is also infected. He transmitted the virus to his wife, and both children were born positive. His case is typical of many Indians, in which a husband passes the disease on to a wife, decimating an entire family. Vikram was on ARVs for 3 years, but he skipped some of his doses. His drugs cost less than Americans would pay for a daily cup of coffee, but it was still too much to afford for this bookkeeper who earns about $2,000 a year. And because he didn't take all of his pills, his disease got worse, and now he has to take an even more expensive version of ARVs. Last April, in the late stages of HIV, he came to this Doctors Without Borders clinic near his home in Mumbai. The clinic gives him his medication for free. His doctor is Chiara Montaldo, an infectious disease and tropical medicine specialist from Italy. She says the ARVs have made a huge difference.
We start after less than 1 month since the first visit for him. But with the ARV treatment, he already improved quite a lot compared with the beginning.
लेकिन कुछ काफ़ी दवाइयाँ है उसमें और 3 कैप्सूल सुबह लेना पड़ता है और 3 कैप्सूल रात में लेना पड़ता है उसके साथ और कई टैबलेट है सब टोटली मॉर्निंग में मुझे 5 लेने पड़ते हैं और रात में करीबन 8 है सेकेंड लाइन की दवा जो मैं इस समय में ले रहा हूँ क्योंकि जो फर्स्ट लाइन जो दवाइयाँ चालू थी वो मुझे काम नहीं कर रही थी लेकिन
Many doctors say it's a common problem. Patients skipping doses because they can't afford the drugs. A reason they say generics are a necessity.
The price is absolutely too high, the price of the medicine. So the generic, of course, are the best option for them, is the only option actually.
But it's an option that Dr. Hamied warns is in jeopardy.
I have said time and time again that what the Indian government have done by reintroducing product patents is committing selective genocide